You are watching the video version of the Marketing Should Be Fun podcast. We are so glad that you are here. If you prefer to listen to podcasts, you can find the Marketing Should Be Fun show on any of your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else. But most of all, we're so glad you're here, and I hope that you enjoy today's conversation. Well, welcome back to another episode of Marketing Should Be Fun. My name's Austin Savage. I am the founder of Savage Content Collective. And today I am not here with Kelsey, but I'm here with someone from my team, Kristi Zobrist, who is one of our newest hires at Savage Content. I'm so excited about it. Kristi is our Chief Strategy Officer. She has an incredible history in marketing and sales roles and as an entrepreneur. She has been in your shoes many, many times throughout her life. But Kristi, it is so good to have you on the Savage Content team. But even more so, I don't know, actually more so, but just as much, it's really good to have you here on the Marketing Should Be Fun podcast as well. Welcome.
I am excited, a little nervous, but excited to be on the podcast and more excited to be on the team.
Yes, I think I should have flipped those because those absolutely are. This is exciting. It's more exciting to have you on the team. But this is your first podcast, right?
First podcast ever. First one.
Oh my goodness. Now I have to know, and it's okay, whatever your answer is, even though we do a lot of podcast production at Savage Content Collective. But are you a podcast listener? Like, do you ever like have any shows in your rotation?
I'm actually not a podcast listener.
Oh,
I am an ebook
gosh.
listener. I listen to books. I'm a Audible. So I'm not a podcast listener much. It has to be if someone sends me something, I will listen to it, but I'm not a regular podcast listener.
Yes, very interesting. And that no shame. Honestly, for me, it depends on the season of how I'm feeling. Like, I feel like I'll have like 3 months where I'm like, I love podcasts, right? Like listening to podcasts. And I'm like, I'm listening to a couple. And then I'm like, okay, I'm listening to a bunch. But I've always felt like, I want to listen to a lot of shows so I know kind of like what's happening in the industry. But we also like listen to so many podcasts internally at Savage Content that it feels like I'm listening to podcasts every week, even if they're ones that we're producing. So
I'm sure.
Yeah. You mentioned that you are an ebook listener, an Audible listener. We've been on a big kick here on the show. We've been talking about books a lot over the last few weeks. We just had an episode all about the Onyx Storm release, which I don't know if you're a fantasy reader or a fiction reader, but what is one of the best books that you've read or listened to recently?
Ooh, that's really hard because I read so many. I don't have like a favorite book, but I am a psychological thriller. So
really,
I like that genre. And so there's not a favorite book, but I want something that I'm not going to know what happens in the end. And so if they get me at the end where I'm like, I never would have seen that coming, then I like that book. And then I'll never read it again. So that genre, and you've got to get me at the end, and then I love the book.
Okay. Interesting.
But I don't have like one favorite.
That is so crazy. So psychological thriller that ends specifically in an ending that you don't understand. Is that that's your goal?
An ending that was just like, wow, I did not see that
Didn't see it coming. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Honestly, I need book titles because I haven't really read much in that genre.
I'll have to look back and I can give you, I have a list of them, but I don't have one specific favorite.
Okay, so this is a perfect lead-in to our this or that for today. We always start off the show with a little quick segment, just giving two options, and we kind of battle it out about our perspectives. But I'm thinking they might be the same here in this one, but we'll find out.
Okay.
Would you rather never be able to read a book again, which we will call listening to a book the same as reading a book?
Okay.
Or never be able to watch a show or a movie again?
Read a book.
You would rather never be able to read a book?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, tell me why.
Because I watch shows while I work. So I am a binge watcher while I work. I like to do things. I like to do two things at once. And so you'll find me watching Law and Order while I'm while I'm working. And I watched the whole season. And I can't imagine if I couldn't watch something while I was working. I probably would get stuck. I don't think I could keep working. I would
Yeah.
feel stuck. So while I love my books, I also love my Law and Order SVU
Yeah.
and my
Yeah.
shows.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
think in order to stay productive in my life, I need my Netflix
That
and my
it is so
Peacock.
funny how things like that become like part of our rhythm, and especially like, I don't know if you are this way too, but I've worked in like remote jobs for like my entire career. And so like the rhythms that I get into of like how I'm productive at home include like the strangest things, like, having to put on like at this time in the day, I have to start watching a show. At this time in the
Exactly.
day, I have to not. Like, it's just like this weird, like, I don't know. I don't know what
Exactly.
it is, but that makes sense.
Exactly. I do listen to an audiobook every night before bed, so that would be hard, but
You
I
could
would miss
replace
my
that with a show
Netflix.
very easy.
I could. I could. I could. What about
That makes sense.
you?
It's honestly a tough question. I know I asked it and I had time to think about it, but this feels kind of hard because lately I've really been enjoying books and I really like have loved that. And it's kind of a new thing for me. So it's kind of been like an exciting little, I don't know, it's been exciting to remember that I like reading, but I think that I think I would have to say the same thing. Even though I love them, I think it would be hard to give up some of the shows and like the movies, especially. Like, there's just something about just like that story that it just like, it's short, you're not having to listen to 30 hours of this audiobook or like read through 88 chapters, but you're just like gripped into this story. And I don't know, they're like, I feel like I also, as a dad recently, have been like crying through a lot more movies. And so I'm like, that these are just like, there's just something about it, something about that style. So I think I would be the same.
Yeah, it's true. It'd be hard to give up.
Would be hard to give up. Kristi, we are not here to talk about just ebooks and movies and shows and Law and Order, though we absolutely could do that. I should mention my wife's show recently. She's been back watching Law and Order. So every night I come in, and honestly, those shows, like, it's kind of like Criminal Minds. Like, it's messed up what happens in
I
those
love Criminal
shows.
Minds, my favorite.
It was my favorite for a while too. We are here to talk about marketing, and one of the things specifically that you kind of have helped us launch ever since joining the Savage Content team is a full kind of like in-depth offering around funnel development. So here at Savage Content now, we are doing a lot more work around like marketing funnels and sales funnels that help our clients move people from, hey, they're aware of what we do, they're aware of our brand, or they're aware of a problem that we solve that they have, and being able to create these funnels that move people from awareness all the way down to that moment of action, and making that decision to take a step alongside their brand, whether that's a business or an organization. And so I know our heads have just been around this topic of developing funnels and really like generating leads and moving those leads towards again, that kind of moment of action. And that's what we want to talk about today on the podcast is developing funnels, generating leads. But we want to help our listeners better understand how they can capture the traffic that they already have, coming to their website or interacting with their brand, on their various kind of content channels, and help move those people towards taking those actions and moving them closer to that decision phase of the customer journey. And I feel like this is a topic that has, or a challenge, I guess, rather, that has really been around for a long time, in businesses. Is like, we always feel that just struggle to generate leads and to get people to take action. I often hear that in calls with potential clients and current clients of just them wanting more people taking action alongside their brand. Of course, that's how we fund ourselves as a business. That's how we fund ourselves as an organization if you're leading an org instead. But is this something that you are seeing as well, Kristi, like this kind of struggle to generate leads and move them towards action?
You're saying it exactly right. To take action, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is the exact thing, because, it's not just about visibility. It's how do you build the path from I just found you to I'm ready to work with you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of businesses get frustrated when I have all these people that see me, but they aren't necessarily taking that action to work with them. And so, where from Instagram, from walking down the road,
Mm-hmm.
seeing their business, where is that person leaking off from deciding to take the action? And so I think that's been a frustrating thing from the beginning of business, because I can look
Yeah.
back at billboards, you can look at magazines, you can look at the radio, and it's more than just hearing the name. You have to figure out, how do I make this person take action and want to do something with me? And so that's what these funnels work on. It's how do you make someone take the very next action that you want them to take? And the word funnel, I think, sounds really scary,
Yeah.
but it's really not scary at all. And so that's what has been so interesting and so fun to talk to people about, because once you lay it out and talk about it, they're a lot easier than what they are made out to be.
In the conversations that you're having with business owners, like, especially for those who are just kind of feeling that frustration around, like, I am like building awareness, like I am kind of like starting to build this brand, but I'm struggling to kind of like move them to what's next. What do you feel like is kind of like the emotions that people are typically sort of feeling around that? Like, what is kind of that core, feeling maybe behind that frustration?
I think people feel hopeless and stuck. Is
Hmm.
They feel like they're either putting a lot of content out, they feel like they're doing everything that they've heard they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They're maybe making a lot of Instagram content, a lot of Facebook content. They're writing emails, maybe even, and people are just not purchasing. And so they're just feeling like, people are starting to engage, but they're not taking that next step, or they don't want to
Mm-hmm.
spend money on ads and they don't know
Yeah.
what else to do and it's not working. Maybe their audience is growing, but still something's not clicking. And so I think there's just a lot of frustration and hopeless feeling of, I don't know what to do next to make someone take this action, like, and time.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to wait another 6 months to have someone take that action,
Yeah.
because people don't have the time to wait another 6 months to take that action. They need someone to start spending money and to take that action in the next month, so that they can start paying bills and they can start
Yeah.
keeping their business alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and I know both of us recently have had, conversations with people all across the board, in connection to this topic of, there are those who, like, especially those startups where it's like, we're helping them like launch their first offer. And it's literally like, we are like in a race against the clock, because like literally they cannot make money until they have this offer launched and have kind of a funnel leading people towards it. And so we're like, we gotta build. And then we're talking to those people as well who are like coasting, they're doing okay, they might have been around for a while, and it's like we've kind of stalled out, and so they're kind of at that same place of, it's kind of like a soft hopelessness a little bit, where it's like, we've been doing this for so long, it feels like we have earned this being easier. And in a lot of ways, like, it just still, things just change so quickly. And, so always having these new ways that we can get people's attention, get their interest, and use it to your advantage is really important. And so wherever you are at in your business, your organization, what we want to kind of walk you through today is something that you can take action on, and is something that you can benefit with to kind of increase the momentum that you're seeing right now. So, Kristi, we have a process that we are working multiple clients through right now. This is something that you have done just a lot in your marketing career, is this process of launching a lead generator of some sort, and then creating a funnel that leads people towards a specific action. And today I just want to get practical. Like, how do people do that? What does it look like to look at this problem of, I want more leads, I want more people taking steps alongside my organization, and implement a system to actually do that?
Sure. So let's start with the very first thing I tell people. And I call it the laying in bed problem. Are you talking about the laying in bed problem? If you aren't saying something that someone's thinking about as they're laying in bed at night, and I literally lay down and I say, is someone saying that as they're laying in bed at night?
Yep.
Is that a problem? Is that a desire? And are you using those words? Then that's number one. Because if that's not in your lead magnet, if that's not in your content, if that's not somewhere and you're saying that, that's something that you can do right now to start changing your content, to look at your lead magnet, to look in your emails. If you have some of these pieces, do you have the laying down in bed content? And if you don't, then you have to add the laying in bed content right now. Because that's number one. If you don't have that, people aren't going to take action.
Yeah.
Because they think you don't understand them. You got to use the right words. Yeah. So then once you know that laying in bed content is working, and we start using that in your lead magnet, and that's where we start building this funnel, is that laying in bed content's working. And so now we can do a lead magnet where we have a PDF that's speaking to that content. We can do a quiz that helps them identify if they are if that problem is really big, or if they even have that problem. The quiz can be a really engaging way to get them in that. So there's a lot of different things we can do for the lead magnet. The quiz has been really interesting with some clients. I've loved seeing people's reaction to putting a quiz in place. We've had some really creative quizzes get talked about.
We've literally had, every time we bring up that idea, I think we've heard it on two separate calls, at least recently, where people are like, that's really cool. We're like, I mean, yeah, I guess it is. You're right. It is really cool.
It is. So, I think PDFs, there's a lot of PDFs out there and they are still working. But I think being creative with your lead magnet and doing something unexpected is one way to really get people to see you and to stand out. So the quiz is really interesting.
I think that's something too that doesn't feel like a lead magnet to like a consumer as well. I think there are so many things where in a lot of ways, like the majority of people are perfectly fine with still exchanging like their email address for something of value. And that's something that's become, kind of normal, but it does feel different. Like, especially with a quiz, like you're entering your email address typically like before you get your results. And so it's something like you've already taken the quiz by the time you get to the point of of taking action and giving your email. And it just is kind of a different sort of structure as well that I think feels different as a consumer, in addition to like the format, of the value being different as well.
So from there, we're going to take our content and we're going to enter them into an email series. And believe it or not, emails are still converting. Yep. I think that people have a belief that emails are dead, and they are still converting at a pretty big percentage. Are you still seeing that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, honestly, right now, I would say, we manage like 4 core content channels, at Savage Content, as you know, but like podcasts, blogs, emails, and social are like what we're living and breathing every single day. And honestly, I would say that emails are probably our most valuable content channel right now across the board. Like we're seeing still really solid open rates. We're still seeing really solid click rates in the aggregate. And I think like it's such a huge opportunity for every brand. Like this is literally still one of the most personal forms of marketing that exists to us.
Yes, it is. And I think if you're writing emails that feel personal and that still speak to the problems, to their desires, and feel personal, then I think people are still opening them. They're still reading them. So we're going to go into an email series. And I'm writing one right now that has a challenge in the email series. That was the lead magnet, was like a 5-day challenge. Yeah. And what's so great about it is that it's delivering wins every day. It's like one small step you can do. And I love that someone can open their email, they can get a win that day.
Yeah.
And so within that, what we're doing in that email series is now not only are they getting the win, but we're leading them into then the product, because we're saying, today you took this step and yesterday you took a step. If you've enjoyed taking those 2 steps, then I have a bigger challenge for you that you can enter, a 4-week challenge where you're going to do these two things even deeper.
Once we give people that value that we've promised to them, what is that process then of capturing their attention, capturing the interest and the momentum that we've created simply by starting that sort of journey of trust, kind of back and forth? How do we kind of like channel that now in moving towards that purchase?
We have our email sequences that are going to deliver the value. Once we are delivering that value and earning that trust, we're getting these quick wins, then we're going to start introducing our next step for them. And the next step is going to be taking the action to purchase something. And so the purchasing something might not be the highest ticket product. We want to take the action to purchase maybe a mid-level product, low-level product, because we're earning trust. And so we're going to earn trust by, maybe the first one is in a PS. If you've loved this challenge, you may love this next 4-week challenge that dives deeper into what we're talking about here, that goes further into this quiz you just took, that goes even more into whatever this PDF is. Then in our next emails, we're going to start really tearing apart the problems and the desires and showing, you've already discovered now that we have these problems and desires that you've talked about. Now, in this course, in this next piece of information that I want to deliver to you, I have more of a framework that's going to help you solve this. I have more of an insight for you. In the next email, I'm going to have testimonials showing that these people saw results from the same thing you had. These people saw results by using this next framework, by using this next course. And so by already building trust with the wins, now we're going to show them how they can get more results with this product. And the whole goal, I always tell people this, the whole goal is not to be salesy. And when we go into business as small business owners, we aren't here because we're wanting to make sales. Like, people don't start a business because they're like, I want to make sales and I want to make tons of money. And the goal is we want to solve people's needs so deeply that we are creating resources to solve those needs. And so in this email sequence, when we're really solving people's needs and pointing out how we can continue solving those needs, and that's our sole focus, then these emails come out really seamlessly and people feel really taken care of. And it's not a buy this product because I want to make more money. It's this next thing I have for you actually solves your needs even more fully. So it becomes this, here's your next step with me. And then after that, you can have another step and you just keep building this funnel as I want to keep serving you. And here's the next step to take. And so it actually serves the client in such a beautiful way and serves you as a business. And so that's what's so great about funnels is it builds your business while also serving your client step by step.
Yeah. We talk about that a lot just here on the podcast in general is that shift away from, being kind of overtly salesy in most of your content, which is a common challenge I think that a lot of businesses have, is they feel like creating content means promoting their products and promoting their services, which sometimes it does, but more often than not, it involves, being that thought leader, being that guide, being, that person who's kind of leading the way or kind of like showing you their journey in a specific industry or around a topic. So like it's thinking about this specifically in connection to funnels, how do our listeners kind of like make that internal shift as they're kind of writing these emails and thinking through this sequence? Like, tell us a little bit more about what it looks like to move away from, I really want to promote, my service. I need to give every detail on, what this looks like, into like being that kind of friend and guide who really like cares and letting that kind of come through in the content that you're creating.
Sure. So another client I'm working with is in fitness. And we were talking about someone who is getting ready for a wedding. And we were talking about a price she was willing to pay and actually what my client cares about most is getting her ready for her wedding. And
Right.
so when she's writing these emails, we were talking about, it's actually not about a price. We're not talking about price a ton. We're not talking about any deals. We're not talking about features. We're not saying,
Mm-hmm.
You get 30 minutes, you get this. We're talking about what is the change? What are the results? And so we're selling the results. And I say selling, but we're pointing out the results to someone,
Mm-hmm.
because what this person cares about is she wants to feel really good on her wedding day. She probably doesn't
Mm-hmm.
even care about a goal weight. She probably doesn't care about inches lost. She
Mm-hmm.
wants to feel amazing on her wedding day. And so
Yeah.
when she's writing these emails, she's going to write them in a way that speaks to that desire, that you're
Yeah.
standing at the altar on your wedding day and how she feels,
Mm-hmm.
rather than you're going to lose 15 pounds by this date. You get
Yeah.
away from some of those gimmicky lines and
Mm-hmm.
start really just speaking to how a person feels and what they want.
Yeah, which you can do in any industry.
Correct.
Like truly, it doesn't matter if you're, business to business, if you're business to consumer, like in any industry, there are frustrations, there are core fears and emotions that, people are experiencing related to the product or the service that you offer. And being able to dig into those promises that you can make, or the vision of of the future alongside, by using your product or service, the better that you will connect on a human level. And if there's one thing that we say here all the time, it is that content performs on a human level. And that is the case across the board. Being able to create content that people connect with is really the difference maker between them caring and not caring about what you are asking them to do, or what you are communicating to them.
I love that.
Another question around funnels. So, I love this idea of, really kind of making that email sequence very natural, coming out of the value that we've given to someone who's taken this action alongside our business. How do business owners or organization leaders really take everything that they want to accomplish through this lead generator and through this funnel? And there's a lot that they're trying to do. They're trying to first create this resource, that gets people's attention enough for them to download it or grab it or get access to it. And then they want to lead people all the way from that awareness to decision through a series of emails. And so how do business owners kind of break down this problem to actually identify like the tactical things, like how many emails should this series be? The tactical things like what should each email include? Once they kind of decide that number, what's kind of the process to go from that, like, okay, I have the vision for what I want this to do, all the way down to, okay, I know what this email is. This email is. This email is.
There's a reason we do the work that we do. There is a framework to follow that is kind of proven to work, that has testimonials, that has pain points in different areas, that does work, that speaks to humans on a human level. Like you said, I ask clients to think, why did you start what you're doing?
Yeah.
Why did you do this? And start following, what do you think a client needs to know next? And really work from, what does your client need to know from beginning to end? And if you kind of go with gut instinct of like, what does a client need to know from the start of this problem? Okay, so let's use the example of, I want my marriage to be better. And when you're trying to think about that, well, where does a client need to start with that? And you start thinking about the problems.
Yeah.
That's where you start with your lead magnet. Well, a client doesn't need a lead magnet on, how do I make my marriage better? There's a lot of steps before that. So then when you're writing your emails, you go back into that even deeper. Maybe you've picked your lead magnet. Now, how do I answer those questions to that? And just start going backwards and start answering those questions. And if you've done that, then you've probably worked through this pretty well to build this for someone. And just keep working backwards, because I think a lot of people start too broad and they try to answer, how do I make my marriage better? And that's their lead magnet. And then they just go sell. And then they're wondering, why is this not converting?
Yeah.
It's too broad. And so I
Yeah.
think just keep working backwards on things.
Yeah.
Can you keep asking that why 7 times is what I recommend, is ask yourself why 7 times to get backwards.
Literally so good. Before we close, I want to circle back all the way to the laying in bed problems that you talked about with formulating kind of that direction for that lead magnet. And I love that, that concept of, in all of our marketing, but especially, as we're trying to offer something, we really do want to dig into like, what are those actual pain points that, are just like circulating in people's heads as they're laying in bed. And it's interesting because I feel like that is something that we all know, in the business space of like, yes, felt needs. Yes, we want to speak to problems, and especially those who have been, maybe more connected to marketing for a while, that obviously is something that, marketers are always talking about, but it still is something that is hard to put into action. And I think in a lot of ways is because like it's easier to make assumptions of, what we think about our audience rather than like really kind of settling ourselves into their shoes and like getting to the core of the problems. But from your perspective, Kristi, like how can business owners be more intentional about making that shift from what they think their audience, is feeling to what their audience like actually is feeling?
Yes. Actually, I first tell them to literally go lay in bed.
Yeah.
I recommend going to lay in bed. Let's go back to the fitness. So, is the bride thinking, I want to lose 15 pounds in 30 days? Go lay down. And is that something you'd think in bed? Probably not.
Yeah.
She's thinking, I want to look good on my wedding day. I want to feel good. What is she actually thinking as she lays there? And when you're in that spot, a lot of times you can think and brainstorm a lot better because you're like, no, I wouldn't think this as I'm laying here in bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You really start to picture and put yourself in the place of the client when you're in that position, laying in bed or lay on a couch. But I do recommend getting in that position to try to get your mindset out of marketer, business owner position and into your client's position.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because like, I mentioned that you can do this process for any industry. And I think, as you know, as well, like we do a lot of work here at Savage Content in both the business space, but also the nonprofit space. And I think you can do like that same process also for like how to tap into those like core needs for your potential donors, your potential volunteers, of like it not just being this question of, well, I need an organization to give to because I want the tax benefits or whatever. But instead it's like laying in bed and you're like, I don't help my community. It's like I feel like I am just kind of existing sort of day to day. And I am not, I don't know where to take action to like add more meaning to my life, like that kind of stuff.
I worked with Laura on this, actually. We talked a lot about a nonprofit and we said for foster parents or for people who want to maybe give to fostering, there could be, I can't foster, I can't adopt, but I want to give to that community. How can I help? But I don't have money. What are ways I can give? And they're feeling like they want to make an impact, but really don't know how if they don't have money or they literally can't foster themselves. And that is a weight on them that they want to be able to help. And so start thinking about how else are these people thinking? And so I think that's a great point that it is in the nonprofit too.
I love that this process is doable for any business across any industry. I love that it is also something that an organization can implement just as well as a business can. And so for you, if you are listening, we really want to encourage you to take action in thinking through this topic. How can you implement funnels for the first time in your business or your organization? Or how can you improve the funnels that you already have running with some of the things that we've talked about really nailing down into those problems, about thinking through the structure of that funnel by kind of working backwards through the problems and the challenges that your potential customer is facing or this lead might be kind of like struggling with. and take action on that. Whether it's over the next week or over the next month, look through the things that you do or don't have running automatically in the background and really start to identify opportunities for those things in your business or your organization. Kristi, we've mentioned this a couple times, but this is work that we are doing here at Savage Content now. We launched this service, it had to have been like a month ago. Already have quite a few people who are taking advantage of it. We are full on in funnels development, mindset, and production. And I love it. And it's been really fun to see people kind of, grasp the need of this. And, we have clients in both spaces who are, implementing funnels for the first time, but also those who have over 20 funnels that they've built, over the years and are now trying to like make sure that they're still working correctly and, make sure that they're performing like they should be. So before we close out our episode, just give us kind of the breakdown of, what does that service look like? Why are people taking advantage of it? What's that work that you're doing in that space lately?
Sure. So a few reasons why people are taking advantage of it is, we've got some people that can just never quite get it done. And it is something that there's a lot of steps. There's a lot of things to think through. And so you've got to weigh some time versus it's that time thing. You want to get some leads going and you're at that race against time. And so you may want to just work with us because we can get this done a lot quicker. We can get this done very quickly. We are good at it. And so that's one reason. Another reason is we can optimize it and we can really look at where is your funnel possibly leaking clients. I am a data nerd. I love looking at the different percentages and I like seeing, if we move this button up a little bit, is that going to make this page convert more? Is email 2 no one reading? And so suddenly you have this huge drop off. And so there's a big part of this that is about optimizing what's there and making sure that people are following through in each action. And so there could be different reasons as to why people work with us. But basically, we're working with a lot of different sized businesses to put together from top to bottom either a nurture funnel, getting clients and taking care of them, or a full-on sales funnel from getting clients with a lead magnet, a quiz, getting them into the email sequence we talked about to that includes like a thank you page to make sure they know what to do next, into the automations to segment them so where these clients are coming from, what's happening with them, all the way down to taking the next step and making that sale. So that's really what we're doing with clients around here. And it's been really fun to see clients get excited about it and to see where this is going to lead with their leads, if you will.
Yeah. Leading with their leads. I love it.
Leading with their leads.
Well, you have been doing a fantastic job kind of leading that charge, Kristi. So I appreciate all the work that you've done on that front. And for our listeners, if there is, action that you want to take on in this space, but you are just feeling that kind of like crunch of time, or just honestly the acknowledgement, like I should do that, but I'm not gonna. We absolutely would love to have a conversation with you because there's a lot of value that you can get from that in kind of strengthening that pipeline of potential customers for the industry that you are in. So you can always reach out to us if you are interested in taking a next step there. Again, you can go to savagecontent.co. You can reach out to our team directly there. But as always, we are so grateful to you for listening to Marketing Should Be Fun. Kelsey and I will be right back here on the next episode, closing out our spring cleaning series. We're going to be talking about goals, and it is going to be a good one. And so we will see you right back here on the next episode of Marketing Should Be Fun.